You're listening to Death of the Reader. It's Herds and Cam.
Yay!
Back again. We're doing some fun stuff this week. We're covering a TV show.
Yes.
Which is something that I always love to do. We're going to be covering A House Divided, which is the 25th episode of season 3 of the hit American TV show Dallas.
Who Shot JR?
More popularly known as Who Shot JR, which is a 5-episode sort of sequence covering the period of time when JR got shot, which is great.
Just a despicable man going about his despicable business and everyone saying they're going to kill him. So no shortage of suspects.
There's so many suspects, Cam, that you're going to have to run through when you solve this later. But I want to just, before we get into the actual plot of the episode, I do want to dive in on JR as a character because my understanding is, because I haven't watched the whole show. I'm not the expert like I was on The Simpsons discussion of that murder mystery, which was incidentally kind of a spoof of this phenomenon, this idea of like ending a season with a murder mystery of someone getting shot and then revealing the killer next season.
Just a guy doing more and more dastardly deeds that it all catches up to him and annoying everyone.
Exactly. But what's fun, of course, is that when this show was created, when Dallas began, you know, the star of the show was Bobby. And sort of the setup is that there's this guy called Bobby Ewing who's married to Pamela Barnes, who's from this other family of oil. They're both oil tycoon families and they're kind of at war. It's kind of like a modern oil tycoon setting comparable to the Romeo and Juliet, where you have your two houses opposed, except in this version of the story, the two houses have an already established marriage that causes a lot of the friction in the show.
It's like a post Romeo and Juliet, non-suicide, and they're rich oil tycoons.
Well,
as far as we know.
As far as we know. I mean, there's like 12 seasons of the show and then a 2012 reboot. I can't say that there's no suicide. If a man commits suicide in the episode we're discussing today, Seth Stone commits suicide, but we'll get to him. Anyway, the rest of the backstory is that people loved watching the show, but frankly, Bobby is insufferable. He's too much of a goody two-shoes. His older brother, JR, is way cooler and sexier. I'm just going to say it. And that's kind of what this series of episodes is capitalizing on, right? The actor said that he wanted more money. There was a plan in the works to like give him facial reconstruction surgery to try and pay a new actor less.
Jeez.
Like there's a lot of stuff going on. But essentially, Who Shot JR is famous because it's the show embracing the scheminess and the scumminess of JR as a character and putting it at the forefront. And I would say making Bobby kind of a better lead for it even.
I think everyone loves a good rogue, everyone loves a swindler, everyone loves a bad boy, and really everyone's going to fall in love with the sleazy swindler rather than the guy who's, you know, wagging his finger at his older brother saying, no, you can't do that. That's bad. That's naughty, JR. And you get JR going, no, but I'm going to do it anyway. Look at me. I'm so cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really good scene in this episode where Bobby does take a stand against his older brother for all the bad stuff he's been up to. And it results in like his parents just crying their eyes out. It's a really emotional scene, but that sort of drama only comes about with a good villain, and JR is that villain. So I guess we should get into all of the various crimes that JR commits. The episode opens on like it has the recap for the episode you're about to watch, which is kind of bizarre.
Just gives you all the hits.
Yeah, like we open with like a little series of clips of all the scenes of the episode. I thought it was the previous episode, but for the one you're about to watch, just like, this is all the stuff that's going to happen. Get excited. But then we jump into a reporting room where apparently the Ewing oil company is going under. They're in huge financial straits. And JR says, no, don't worry about it. I've got some deals in place to keep us afloat. And they're like, how can you possibly be sure of your financial security? And he says,
business.
Smart business deals. Business. The wells that his company has been tapping have been nationalized, which means that they can't make a profit on them anymore.
So all these people bought up all these leases for these very lucrative oil wells right before they all got nationalized. And he's sitting pretty with, I think he said like $75 million. Even though they lost a bunch of money, they still got a bit of money out of it, and they can probably just stay afloat in that money. He absolutely didn't do a little bit of insider trading there. There's no chance of it at all.
No, definitely not. And he definitely doesn't have a thug character by the name of Hank Johnson, who's the most Australian-sounding bloke.
He's sweating. He's probably down in Florida sweating.
Yeah, his face is like bright red and sweating. It's great. There's like an investigation going on the part of an attorney at law, Alan Beam. He's trying to figure out how it is that somehow the Ewing Oil Company is both completely out of money and completely fine, which is something that's kind of being reported on both sides of the news cycle.
How the hell did JR know about this deal, and how did he get his nose ahead?
How did he come out on top in the end? And it drives a lot of drama, both with obviously these different business partners who all just burst into the family office and give him a piece of their mind. But I think what's really fun is watching, because it's a show about the Ewing family, right? So even though JR is the focus here, it's Who Shot JR, but his brother Bobby, our heroic lead, and his father Jock, who's the guy who actually like owns the company effectively. Like he's the old man, you know, he's the father. He's the patriarch. He owns the place. Watching how JR is using his, you know, devil on his shoulder, wheeling and dealing, and then Jock and Bobby, he asks to back him up, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like in the first couple of conversations, we kind of cut between Bobby saying, oh, well, I don't know that what you're doing is very morally okay, JR. But then I think it's Vaughn bursts into the office and Bobby is saying, well, I stand with my family. You know, he's not going to air his grievances with his brother in public, but he does air them in private, you know. So that's one of the big kind of tensions of the episode, not just, you know, who's screwing over who, but like, will this family weather this storm? Is JR's sin too much to keep the household together?
Yeah, there's a lot of personal stuff going on in the background. Obviously, you have Bobby's disillusionment with the family, and not only with his older brother, but with his father, who believes JR at every word, and maybe he shouldn't, maybe he should. And, you know, who's to say, really?
But that's the thing, right? Because we can tell that Jock is choosing to believe his son, that his son's done the right thing, even when he kind of knows he's done the wrong thing, because he believes in family, right? Whereas Bobby, when Bobby says JR's sins are too great, I must leave now. I must take my wife, my controversial wife, and leave. Mama and Dada, I gotta go. That's like the worst pain that Jock can experience. There are tears in his eyes when he knows he hears his son's gonna leave him.
Not only that, you also have JR's wife, Sue Ellen, who he's threatened to have thrown back into a sanitarium because she may or may not be a bit crazy.
Well, let's be clear. He's having her institutionalized for her drunkenness. But yes, the way that it's like coded on screen, she's like grinding her teeth and throwing small soft objects around the room that definitely won't be broken so they can get another take.
Wide-eyed and manic.
Yeah. Like it's coded as the crazy lady. And I mean, we'll talk more about her specifically in the mystery section, but she's basically our like insane red herring character. Like, I mean, maybe you have a theory that involves her, but
she wears red and everything, so you know.
Yeah, she's frequently seen handling a gun, which is pretty great. Yeah, no, she's fun though. I like that she exists as kind of a focal point for all of the personal problems. Because there's a couple other characters that are involved with JR that he's kind of scorned. There's Alan, who's like investigating him, and he threatens to like blackmail him with rape accusations. Like it's this whole thing. And there's also Kristin Shepard, who apparently had a love affair with JR.
And he's trying to pay her off to go hang out with some Brazilian billionaires to get her out of the way. And
well, it's indicative of his opinion of women, right? Because he says, "Oh, yeah, you could just wear like a sexy bikini and then they just give you all the money you could ever need." Like, it's clear that he doesn't think very much of her and of his wife, mind you, which is kind of a, you know, it's a part of the episode because there's another character who's also being led on. There's Lucy Ewing, who's being led along by her college professor, Greg, who also has a wife. So, yeah. Anyway.
All that stuff going on.
I mean, it's all in contrast to Bobby's relationship with his wife, Pam, which is much healthier. They communicate with each other and they decide collectively to basically spite both of their families by the end of the episode. By the time that they understand what's going on, they try to leave South Fork, which is where the story is actually set.
Getting out of Dodge. Probably going to go look for Pam's mum in wherever they went, wherever she went in the beginning of the episode.
Yes, no, you're absolutely correct. In the scene, according to the Wikipedia page, Bobby expresses his concern to his wife about her obsession that has caused her to quit her fashion buyer job to search for her mother. I mean, this is part of an ongoing plot line. It may or may not be related to, that's my assumption, is it may or may not be related to the murder, but it's not impossible that Bobby Pam or both of them could have handled a gun. Because, yeah, I mean, in true cinematic fashion, we get to see the kill at the end of this episode, and it's just
glorious.
It's in the dark. We get to watch JR like turn off every light in his office so we can't see where he's going. And then we get a shaky cam as the killer enters the room, and JR says, "Who is there?" And he gets shot twice in the abdomen.
And then he falls over and well, does he die?
Well, that's actually one of the things that viewers were debating. So I should probably say, look, there's a list of all the people that they suspected and all the odds that they gave on each of them being the killer. Wow. I think that my favorite one, I have a couple of favorite ones. One of my favorites is that there was a 20-1 odds that JR himself shot himself. Given the character's, this is from Wikipedia again, given the character's reputation, it was not impossible that he staged the shooting himself.
Okay. It wasn't JR going into the room
saying,
and shooting JR
in
the so he organized a hit on himself. That
really
makes more sense than what I was thinking. Yeah, it is a really great shot. He fumbles around, and I can't believe he didn't trip over and break his neck on any of the furniture in the dark getting his coffee. I think also just want to mention the music in the episode, used pretty sparingly, but really lets you know how to feel at specific points, just to really hammer it home. It's like, you should be surprised right now.
I mean, I got the feeling just watching the show, because there's not that many locations. As I kind of said, a lot of the locations are just inside of the Ewing office. That's about half of the show is shot in there, which I kind of enjoy. But yeah, the music is really top notch. It's a lot of stings just to let you know you should be surprised or concerned, or the psycho-esque music when we're watching Sue Ellen grind her teeth, so that you know, oh, she's about to shoot somebody with her gun that she just found that she put in her purse, which is pretty incredible. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the acting in this. I'm not sure the exact year for this episode, but the show ran from 1978 to 91, I believe.
1980 was the release date of the episode.
There you go. So it's shot in the 80s. So, it's not a modern production in the technological sense, but I do enjoy that all the characters are very much larger than life, particularly JR. He really is the standout character,
Just a real asshole.
I mean, he is. I love him. I love how he's just constantly having to defend his actions, and he's always very self-assured, and he doubles down.
Yeah. He's completely in control for the whole episode. There's not a point where you think, oh, he's starting to lose control on this. He's got all of his schemes locked down. He's got answers to all the questions.
Well, I think, honestly, my favorite, I don't know if it's my favorite. I haven't had much time to think about this. We're coming fresh out of watching this episode, but one of the scenes that just sticks in my brain is when, I think it's Cliff Barnes comes in and says, "Hey, I've got a deed to one of your functioning oil wells. I own half of it. And you can't just rip up the contract. I've got a photocopy, so it stands, and I'm getting half the profit from that oil well." And JR makes a phone call and says, "Shut down the well," because, he doesn't want to share his toys. It's so...
Just to spite
It's
this
so
guy.
petulant.
It's so
surely
great.
It's better to make some money than no money. But to JR, it's the principle of ownership.
And Jock backs him up. I'm not doing business with that man. Not doing business with him.
Yeah, he says, "I would have done the same thing." But would he though? And that's kind of the fun.
I reckon he would.
Well, that's kind of the fun, is that we get to see JR kind of puts pressure on his father to go along with him and hold up his end of the deal of we're family, we stick by each other. JR, in all of his relationships, whether it be business, romantic, personal, whatever else, he is the abusive one. He is taking everything that he can from the people that he deals with, and he doesn't take no for an answer. Well, I suppose with all of that under our cap, we will return with Kem's solution. And I've got a bit of a riddle wrapped in the points that we're gonna be stealing this episode. I'm gonna pull a little one of my own JR related schemes. So look forward to that. You're listening to Death of the Reader on 2SCR 107.3. You're listening to Death of the Reader. This is Herds and Cam. We are discussing Who Shot JR. Cam is in the hot seat. This is the 25th episode of the third season of the American TV show Dallas, the most watched American TV show of all time, I think. It's up there. Who Shot JR was a TV event because as you may or may not be familiar with, there was, I believe, an 8-month period between this cliffhanger of the third season of the TV show Dallas, A House Divided, and the actual unveiling of who did shoot JR. During that period, there were some pretty crazy theories floating around, and also there were odds given as to which suspect may have actually done the killing. Some highlights include, as I mentioned in the previous section in part 1, JR shooting himself was given 20-1 odds. Dusty Farlow is a character who did not appear in the episode, but is Sue Ellen's former lover and apparently was the most popular pick for a killer.
Really?
This character who apparently died in a plane crash, he totally shot JR, even though he never appeared in the episode. So yeah, there's a lot of characters here. We're going to do our best, but I have a scheme here. The way we're going to do this is that this week you have only this one episode to solve the murder of Who Shot JR. Next week on the show, I'm going to give you 3 more episodes. I'm going to give you the first 3 episodes of season 4, right? And then we'll cap it off with the 4th episode, and that'll be it. If you can solve everything about the murder today, I'm going to give you a total of 4 points, including the one if you propose 2 different theories over the 2 weeks. And I'm going to deduct 1 point and give it to myself for every episode of evidence that you use to concoct your theory.
And that's Dallas.
And that's Dallas, as they say on the TV show Dallas. Who is your suspect for this week? What is your wacky theory?
Marilee Stone.
Marilee Stone?
Yeah.
Why?
There it is.
The wife of Seth Stone, who committed suicide after losing literally millions in the crooked deal of JR. A man who's never been on screen. Yep.
We see her one time at the beginning of the episode. There's a news report about this whole schmozzle, and it reports that Seth Stone has committed suicide, and it has a zoom into her face, and she either says something or makes a gasping sound, or
she's
looks
very
disapprovingly at the television, and then she
wags her finger.
She wags a finger at the screen. She looks down the barrel of the camera and says, "That's very bad."
I mean, in TV language, she says that's very bad.
Yes, yeah.
So anyone can understand it.
Yeah, and we never see her again, and we have rapid fire, suspect after suspect after suspect of people saying how they're going to kill JR or something to that effect, but it's none of them. It's not one single person who threatened JR. It's Marilee Stone, the widow of Seth Stone, victim of JR's wheeling and dealings.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm with you on this because she's introduced in the early parts of the story, so Knox is pretty happy, and there are no ghosts involved unless Seth Stone is somehow possessing the body of his wife.
He's possessed the gun.
He possessed the gun. Oh, I see. So he's given her a gun.
He's possessed the bullet that the gun shoots to kill JR.
Right. The 2 bullets, because the 2 bullets end up in his abdomen. So are you telling me that Seth Stone is able to divide himself possibly through, is it mitosis, in order to split himself in half and create 2 of himself to put himself inside of ghost bullets?
Yes. Like, it's a supernatural, Ben. Anything goes.
So now there is supernatural cosmic nonsense going on.
No.
No?
This is just a bit.
Oh, okay. This is just a joke. Is this show a joke to you, Cam? Do you not believe in the sanctity of the rules of Ronald J. Knox? I think it's J.
He's obviously very important to you.
Well, he was a priest, so
The Reverend Ronald Knox.
Ronald A. Knox. Oh my God. I've lost all my credibility. Ronald A. Knox. I was like, J? No, A. Ronald Arbuthnot Knox.
Yep. J just feels right off the tongue. Anyway.
It does. RJF.
Yes, so
it's
that is my... Mm-hmm. It is just because it's in my brain. Mm-hmm. No, but that is my theory I posit to you.
Okay.
It is Marilee Stone.
Do you think that Marilee ties into any of the rest of the storyline? Because there are a lot of characters running around threatening people. There's this through line about scorned lovers. Do you think that Marilee might have been like a past I don't know, lover of JR. I don't know. She might be a bit old for him. He seems to go after young women that he can manipulate.
I think all of that stuff is once again obfuscation. Here's the thing though. My instinct is saying all of that's obfuscation, right? But I'm treating this like a traditional murder mystery rather than an American soap. So who knows where their head's at with this?
Well, how do you think that the American angle plays into this? You know, because it's in Texas, which stereotypically means that we should be, I don't know, riding horses and firing our revolvers into the night sky and shouting "Yee-haw." How do you think the kind of Americanization of this story will affect the upcoming episodes, I guess? How do you think that's going to play in?
I think the Americanization is the breadth of characters that show up. There's a lot going on. It's very melodramatic. I think that they want to be pulling a fast one as well. I think they really want the audience to focus on maybe a couple of people and then do a big old twist and rip the carpet out from underneath them. But they can't do the character who hasn't appeared in the episode either, because that would have a bad reaction from the audience. So it needs to be someone who's in it, but not too much in it. The Americanization is definitely in the breadth of the characters and the height of the drama.
I'm looking at my sources here, which I've been instructed by our lawyers not to name. But according to online sources, Marilee Stone, played by Fern Fitzgerald, was given odds of 16-1 as being the killer. Does that encourage you? Do you think that maybe the killer is going to be someone with very low odds of success? Because as we kind of know from the Simpsons Who Shot Mr. Burns series, there were very, very few people who were able to actually pick the correct killer in that. Or do you think that the real killer will be someone who actually has very high odds? Do you think that the audience at the time would be very on the money?
Oh, man. I think I've been trying not to think about the Simpsons episode. I don't want that to slurry my thought process with this.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. The whole bit about the actual killer of Mr. Burns, I don't know if that's like a Simpsons bit or if it's based off the actual reveal of this particular mystery either. So I think I'm going to try and take it at its merit.
Look, just to touch on that briefly, I will say I think that the bit in Who Shot Mr. Burns of all the characters like massaging their guns is very directly parodying the way that Sue Ellen handles her revolver, because she does not let go of that thing. She keeps touching it and looking at it and grinding her teeth. Like, that is prevalent in almost every one of the Simpsons characters that have guns. They're all doing the exact same thing and looking around shadily. So that's definitely some influence there.
Sue Ellen is very cleverly, well, I don't know about cleverly, but very obviously placed as a red herring. Even though she has the gun, she rips out her clothes from her drawers and there's a gun underneath and she stares at it and then she puts it in a bag. And then the next scene we see her in, the gun's on the bed again. She's looking at the gun with her big crazy eyes. Everyone in Texas is gunned up, man. Like, you're not telling me that that's the only gun in Texas and she's got it. So I don't buy that for a goddamn second.
No, I believe that. What about the characters who are kind of investigating, or kind of the good characters? Because there's a kind of a divide, I guess, where there are all these bankers and oil tycoons. And I feel like we've kind of talked about how they've been swindled. They could obviously be out for revenge. They're also kind of more front and center saying, I'm going to kill him. But there's some characters who are kind of on the good side of the spectrum. There's Alan Beam, our investigator, basically our Sherlock, and he's working with Kristin Shepard. And then there's obviously Bobby, who like stands up to his brother. Do you think that any of those characters could have done the killing? Do you think that that's an angle that is possible? Or do you think it's like, I don't know, one of these I mean, you said it's a character who has very little screen time and they're going for a switcheroo, but I guess what about on the more unlikely spectrum? What do you think about them?
I don't know. I feel like still in the whole scheme of things, I think they're going to keep the moral characters to be moral unless they pull some crazy thing and have it be Bobby, which is kind of nuts.
I mean, wouldn't that be wild if it was his brother? Because that's kind of how the ending of this episode is framed, right? That JR has committed the ultimate crime against his brother. So his brother commits the ultimate familial crime of leaving, right? The business crime against the familial crime. So I guess that there could be a sort of solution here where Bobby shoots his brother It does seem a bit far-fetched, though, given that he's already kind of made a stand, right?
And he's already explicitly said that he's leaving. So unless that's something to divert your attention away from Bobby. I did have another idea, but it didn't really pan out how I thought it was going to. I thought maybe his dad would start to, you're tearing this family apart, JR, and then I got to put a stop to him. Maybe that's his motivation, but his dad seems to be pretty much in his court, so I can't see his dad shooting his son, who has basically kept the business afloat.
I think it's interesting, right? Because Jock, his motivation, as we see it through the episode, is to keep the family together. So I think it's not outside the realm of possibility that he would do something drastic to get Bobby back. But I do agree with you that, like, having him shoot his son is probably not the way to go about that. If anything, that would further destroy the family, which would be a very interesting status quo change for the show. But I don't, like, as a soap opera, I don't feel like you'd go for that.
I don't think it's going to be any of the main cast. I don't think it's going to be anyone in the family, because with it being a soap opera, disrupting the dynamic of the main cast that makes the show work is not something that the writers want to do. I think there's going to be a lot of suspicion around the main cast to keep interest, but in reality, in the end, I think it's going to be someone outside the main cast, maybe a secondary or tertiary character. So the status quo of the show doesn't change too much, and viewers keep coming back for the Dallas that they know and love.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the fun of all of these murder mystery sort of shows. If a show has an episode, right? I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on Death of the Reader Undead, and we plan to more in the future. How there are some shows that just have a murder mystery episode. And that's kind of fun, but also because it's literally about murder. It's about horrible violence. These sorts of themes, like very heavy themes, can be kind of involved in those stories. So it's a great opportunity to explore the darkness in characters. But as you say, if it's like a one-off, if we're not going to commit to a storyline with lots of murder, like if it's not like explicitly a crime show, then we can't actually change that much. And even in crime shows, right, if you go to NCIS or whatever, the criminals or the victims are usually the guest stars. You know, they're characters that we're bringing on for the purposes of the crime, and then we never see them again, probably.
And on that point about the guest stars being the criminal, I wonder if any of the guest stars or new characters introduced in the story, such as Marilee, were like recognizable in the time period that the TV show was released. So, like, for example, if you're watching a crime show, as you said, like NCIS or Castle or anything like that, you look for the well-known actor with the speaking role that doesn't really come up much in the story and then comes up at the end later as the killer, right? So that's kind of what I'm also basing my assumption of.
That makes sense. I've actually got a list of the quote guest appearances, if you'd like to hear about that. Because we got Marilee, obviously. We've got Kristin Shepard, Alan Bean, Vaughn Leland, Dr. Simon Elby, Jordan Lee, Harry McSween, Connie Brasher, Luella Caraway Lee. Those are all the guest characters, according to this list I'm looking at here. So if you want to try that theory, that might be the list to look into.
You know what? I still think that Alan Beam and Kristin Shepard, I think they've got a little bit too much screen time. They're too much at the forefront, and they make a vocal threat.
They do. They both literally say, I'm going to kill him.
And then Alan Beam is like, but get in line, sister. There's plenty more ahead of you.
Yeah, you're right. Technically, Kristin says, I'm going to kill him. And then Alan says, there's a much bigger line in front of you. Like, there's lots of people who want to kill that guy. So that's fun. But yeah. So you're locking in Marilee Stone, wife of the deceased Seth Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. With a gun. That's the murder. With the how is with a gun.
I mean, look, normally I'd spend a lot of time on the how and the why, but I feel like the why is self-evident. It's just revenge for her dead husband. The dead husband excuse, the classic. I don't know if you have anything to add to the how beyond what was shown in the show. Fair enough. Okay. Well done. So that'll just about do us for this episode of Death of the Reader. Next time on the show, we will be continuing our romp through Who Shot JR of the American TV show Dallas, the most Texas murder mystery you've ever heard of in your life. We're going to be covering 3 episodes next time.
Oh my God.
No more Mr. Nice Guy 1 and 2 and Nightmare. Those are the first 3 episodes of season 4 of Dallas. And that'll be sort of the middle section of the story. I'm looking forward to seeing how your theory changes And if you have, in fact, managed to get all of your points and deny me all of my points with your theory of Marilee Stone.
Oh boy, I hope that I have. That'd be really cool.
Wouldn't that be incredible? Awesome. You are listening, of course, to Death of the Reader. I've been Herds with Cam, discussing the TV show Dallas, Who Shot JR. This has been Death of the Reader, your Murder Mystery World Tour on Twisty 107.3. We'll catch you in the next episode.